political role before. I've seen where things didn't work, and I tend to shy away, to be quite candid, from kind of political rancor, name calling, stuff that doesn't get anything done. Sometimes personally I feel it's a blockage for things that we want to get done. So that was probably the big negative.
What about job security? Are you concerned if you lost, you can't come back?
Well, a little bit, but that was quickly overridden. I mean, yeah, we talked in the family about giving up the 5-year appointment, but we had that discussion back in January. You know, that's a risk taker, and we knew that whoever might be mayor would be the deciding person for any reappointment. So it wasn't that big of a leap, if you will, to suggest that if we ran for mayor, and that would be another risk. I've been living with that risk, you know, for the last 7 months, and then it ultimately said, "Is the city worth it?" Of course it is.
Jeff Adachi has been criticizing this labor contract that you struck with police and fire, and he said that you protected the police and fire by shielding them from his measure, by giving them 2-year protection. What's your response to that?
You know, Jeff is going to conjure up every excuse that he has for his inability to work with labor. I don't care if it's public safety, any of the unions. He has an inability to get it. And what he doesn't get is, in San Francisco, when you're talking about the pension system and trying to reform it, you've got to include the people whose lives are at stake on it. And I told them from day one in January, when we had the first department head meeting. I looked at him and says, "Jeff, you know, you're a friend. I like you as department head, but you've got to know I disagree with your whole approach. You can't do it to people when you're doing something around the pension reform. You've got to do it with them, because they have vested rights, and you've got to understand that their lives are at stake as well." And when I got to the point, working with people like Sean Ellsburn and Mickey Callahan and others who were instrumental with the labor leaders to actually start talking serious numbers, I started feeling, oh, this is going good, because they're actually serious about reform as I am. And we announced that from day one, that there had to be something that we would do. But we had to do it in a way that was inclusive, that we got their input, we got their concerns about how far to go and what they could take at a certain time. And with the police and fire, you know, they had the privilege, because they were under contract, to extend their contracts. Guess what? The extension of their contracts for 2 years saves us $31 million in the next 2 years. It helped with the budget balancing, and I have to thank the members of the Police Officers Association and the members of the Firefighters Union, because they stepped up, and they will step up when they are talked to in the most respectful way, when we share their concerns about what will happen to them as employees of the city, who, by the way, are people who put their lives on the line every single day. And I can't forget that. That's something that I think Jeff doesn't understand. Some blockage in him that makes him not sensitive to how people in this city have to work together and to respect the roles that they play. Police and fire are valuable to the city. They're, you know, I respect their jobs and their work. So you just cannot do it to them. You have to have them at the table. They were willing to come forward when they were invited to. Municipal executives, Rebecca Reiner, the people leading the engineers, they all came to the table. And I have to compliment you know, Sean Ellsburn and Mickey Callahan. They all were invaluable to directing the conversation, and that I was there with Warren Hellman and others to make sure that we were fiscally responsible in doing so. I think this whole team worked well together, and I'm proud to put that pension reform on the ballot, and I'm proud to be advertising for it and supporting it when I go to the...
But when it comes to the wage deal with the police and fire, Jeff's saying it's a side deal that you cut with police and fire to give them protections from this pension measure.
Well, that's...
And one could view that as a political move to try to get their support.
Yeah, well,
weeks before you
know, he's going to say things like side deals and so forth. These are all done in the proper method of doing it. When we negotiate union contracts, and the unions want an extension on it, they see a benefit for it, and we see a need that we need to get something out of it as a city, we're going to go through those negotiations and do all the best things we can in the best interest of the city. And so he's not the mayor. He doesn't have the authority to go and negotiate union contracts, but he needs to understand that we respect the unions and respect the representatives of very good workforces we have in the city.
But if it's the will of the voters to pass Adachi's measure, shouldn't the will of the voters be honored? I mean, and why put the police and fire, exempt them for 2 years, although the voters essentially will if they approve Adachi's measure? Because
I had to balance the budget. I mean, this $31 million for the next 2 years goes directly into our general fund. And we had depended upon the police and fire giving up either their raises or an equivalent to their raises in order to balance the budget. And they knew, too, that if we didn't do that, we would have to seek layoffs. And we all were united in avoiding layoffs. The budget is balanced without any major layoffs at all. And I think to the good of everybody that cooperated, including all the unions, a $380 million deficit that I began with, and then coming up with a balanced budget without layoffs, I have to say that I'm pretty proud of that achievement. That's why I focused so hard on making sure that we talked to everybody. And we had budget town hall meetings to death. We had meetings with community-based agencies who said that they didn't want to be cut. We had meetings with unions saying, you can't cut us. We're too valuable for the city. Every major union said that to us. And so we were able, fortunate to work with everybody, including the Comptroller's office, to have an effective balanced budget. But we put in there that we needed givebacks from the unions. Same thing that Gene Kwan did. Same thing that Mayor Chuck Reed did in San Jose. But we did it in a way in which it was very inclusive. We did it in a way in which it was respectful. And we still got the same results. And that's kind of reflective of the way I do business.
Mayor Lee, you inherited a lot of the things that, as the interim mayor that you are now taking credit for, including pension reform and the balanced budget and the Twitter deal. But you haven't laid out any vision yet for what you would do as mayor. So why don't you kind of take us through that?
Well, I did inherit a number of those things. I want to be known as a mayor who can get things done. I mean, these issues were there when I started, but they have to be managed, and you have to have executive leadership that gets the job done. So I want to be known as somebody where no matter who brings up, whether it's a good idea or a challenge to the city, I can respond to it effectively and use all of my experience and then work cooperatively with all the stakeholders to be able to resolve it in a positive way. That's what I think Gavin Newsom looked at me and said, this is the guy I want for interim mayor because he can get the job done. That's what other people look to me for, is that kind of leadership. Not someone who's going to espouse another political point or say I'm kind of like, the best thing since like I don't do that. I focus on getting the stuff done. Having said that, the most important thing to me is job creation in San Francisco. Job creation is number one. And I've learned that through many years. And I actually have my own contribution to that, having been the first one to initiate a 10-year capital infrastructure plan that was going to protect the way we do business in terms of job creation by making sure that the money flow was a very disciplined way, that we got these projects lined up, whether they were parks, whether they were general hospital, police stations, all the infrastructure, arts programs and culture. There were no discipline around those things until we put together a 10-year capital plan. Taking that same philosophy, putting fiscal discipline in what we do, and making sure that we are a solid financial foothold. And a great part of that is talking to businesses, talking to would-be businesses, and making sure they're welcome into the city. That's why I fought so hard to defend redevelopment, because I know that much of our infrastructure at Mission Bay and Hunters Point Shipyard and Slade Lock and Alice Griffin area, that infrastructure we could not afford to do on the general fund. We have to get the tax increment financing for those areas to be able to build that infrastructure. That is why we enjoy Salesforce buying up those 14 acres. They get to build on infrastructure that's already there. They saw the success of the life science. They saw and are seeing now today the building of the UC Medical Center. They see the General Hospital being built on time within budget. They see these things going in a very disciplined way, and they see the government of San Francisco investing the public dollars in these things in a very responsible way, very good institutions. They see this responsible things going on in the business sector, and they see contractors hiring people to get this work done. It's all very positive. And I need to keep that positive aspects going. I need to see that discipline happen. And then when we are able in the position that we are, with Hunters Point and Candlestick area, where we've built the infrastructure, we built it with redevelopment dollars. Now the invitation, just like it was in Mission Bay, is coming out for clean tech companies. And you're going to see the future of San Francisco in these jobs. The clean tech companies are making the inquiries as we speak because they see the success of the models that Gavin Newsom and Willie Brown did in Mission Bay. I give total credit to Gavin and to Willie because they created that whole Mission Bay and they saw it. I get to repeat that. I'm not taking credit for the original ideas at all, but I get to take credit for anything that I do executively that brings people together, that continues this effort in an uninterrupted way. And that uninterruption then invites something like a Rocket Space to invite all these innovative companies to come in. The new companies are going to be the Twitters, are going to be the Zyngas. In between that, you'll get these challenges like the threat of Twitter leaving. That was unforeseen back last year. They didn't necessarily say that. They were here, but we got the real threat when I came into office. Now I turned around and Twitter says, what? They're about to leave? That was not advertised when I came in. But we had to react to it. And we reacted to it by getting together with them, understanding better the technology companies' issues in the city. And not only did we do that the right way, not only did we do it with, I think, a great respect for what's happening in Central Market Street, we also said, by the way, that's just the first decision. That the next one came when Ross Mercarimi and Mark Farrell and I and David Chu, we sat down with Zynga. And they said they had a problem with stock options. We didn't see that. But apparently, as a company that's about to go public, they saw that as a big punisher for them. Could we do something about it? We made those executive decisions, again, in collaboration with the Board of Supervisors. So along the way, while we're doing all these great things, we have these challenges that challenge me as the executive for the city to make the right decision, make decisions that are going to be non-job punishing but job creating. I want to continue more of that. I want to work with Salesforce and work with Lennar Company and their efforts to create a new clean tech cluster down in Hunters Point and make sure that we're inviting these new companies to come in. I get to continue that, and I believe I have the executive leadership to be able to do it.
Quickly, what is your role going to be in the ballot measures that you placed on the November, and the measures that you placed on the November ballot? When you originally said, when you apparently weren't running for mayor, that you didn't want Board of Supervisor members who were running for mayor to be associated with them because you didn't want them to get criticized.
Well, I'm going to be big supporters, of course, of pension reform. I mean, Sean Ellsburn is going to continue being a very, very strong proponent of that. I will work with him on that. With the streets bond, it's Scott Wiener, Supervisor Wiener, who's not running for mayor, but a very big supporter of resurfacing our streets and being much more responsible than we have, and he knows as much as I do as a former DPW head that if we don't do things now to invest in our streets, we're going to pay 5 times more in a very short few years. And so he's going to take that challenge on, and I'm going to be a big supporter of him on that.
The mayor tonight is actually going to a previously scheduled neighborhood group, the Merced Extension Triangle Neighborhood Association, which he was scheduled long before he was a candidate. He's going to keep that. It's strictly to talk about pension, streets, and sales tax measures.
Do you think it's correct for Rose Pack and Willie Brown to take credit for your appointment?
You know, I think anybody who wants to take credit for what they feel is something that they have supported, that's fine with me. But I mean, I don't have any problem with people taking credit. But I know that it's my own personal decision that I made to run for this office. And I know that I made an assessment. Part of it, of course, is based upon a lot of support from all the different neighborhoods, including Chinatown. I mean, you can't go into Chinatown without running into Rose Pak. She's a big force there in terms of being the president or the director of the Chamber of Commerce. We work with her every year with major events like the Chinese New Year's Parade. She's a big voice there, and she's been an enthusiastic supporter of what we've done here. But she's only also one neighborhood. There's many other neighborhoods of people and the leaders that I've listened to, that I've worked with, that I fully respect, and they've been very supportive of what the city and the direction it's going to. So there's going to be a lot of other people that also are saying, and they have said it, you made the right choice. We like what you're doing. We want to continue.
I think there's a difference between the difference being not the neighborhood groups who, yes, we supported you. This is the difference between Rose Pak and Willie Brown coming out last January and saying, we cut this deal. You didn't deny it. We cut this deal. They said it. It was in the chronicles everywhere. She went into the press office at City Hall and said, I put Ed Lee in office. It is because of me. Do you think that is correct?
No, that's not correct. Absolutely.
How come you never set the record straight on that?
Well, I didn't think I had to, because I thought it was pretty obvious that it was the Board of Supervisors and their decision to select me. And I don't believe that they selected me based upon any undue influence by anybody. They selected me because of my record, because of what I've contributed to the city. So, I can't react to everybody else's assertions every day. That would be so distractive to get into the politics of what people are saying or doing. That's not what I accepted this job for. I accepted this job to actually get the job done. That's why the Board of Supervisors made that vote for me, and I've been honoring that certainly for all the time I've been interim mayor.
How come when you realized that Ed Lee Run was exploiting a campaign loophole, you didn't tell them to shut down?
Look, it's not my responsibility.
But it's
to
your
do
name.
That. Well, I enjoy support from everybody, and if there is a campaign that's violating any law, it is the responsibility of our Ethics Commission to research that and to come with a conclusion on it. I'll let them do their job.
So you're basically
all I know is I'm running a clean campaign for my.
So
campaign.
it's safe to say that if there is a separate group that's not connected to you that is pushing your agenda but is doing something illegal, that is okay?
No, that's not okay, but I don't know what they're doing. I've not invested much time in the details of what this Run and Run campaign was all about, to be very candid. I didn't pay any attention to it. Yeah, I enjoyed seeing some of these cartoon characters, and I would laugh when a neighbor across the street said, hey, I got one of these signs, and I'm going to remind you every morning to do this. I laughed at it, but I didn't pay much attention to it. I've been paying all of my attention to running this city, and that's what I've been focused on. And you're gonna have to understand, when I take the great pains to explain in detail all the work that I've done, man, that's not only work, it's really occupied weekends, nights, everything to get those things done, devoted a lot of time to it. I have not paid attention to the Run and Run campaign.
If you become mayor, are you going to support a full investigation into Run Ed Run, whether it's ethical or it's criminal?
I will support all of the investigations that the Ethics Commission has to do and are responsible for doing. That is their job. That's why, as I run city government and all the departments under me, I fully support everything that they do, whether it's wage violations or contract revisions. Everybody's got to do their job. As the former city whistleblower program, I have to make sure San Francisco government is working at its best.
How involved are you going to allow members of Run Ed Run who exploited campaign finance laws and who are now being investigated by the Ethics Commission.
Actually, to be clear, they last night said that they didn't break any rules, and there may be a
No.
loophole.
They didn't necessarily say they didn't break any rules. They implied that they didn't break
Said
any
there
rules.
may be a loophole.
They debated last night
Said that
whether or
they
not he
broke
was
no
truly a
laws,
candidate.
that they could not be prohibited from participating, just to be
And so
clear.
you're going to allow them to participate.
I said just to be
That's not
clear,
my
just to set the
question. My
record
question is,
straight.
are you going to allow them to participate in his mayoral campaign?
Well, as the Ethics Commission said, some woman who stuffs an envelope on some other effort can't be stopped from volunteering on a campaign, and how are we going to know? We want everybody's support.
Are you going to allow the people who handle the finances of Run Ed Run to handle the finances of the
We have
mayoral
to look
campaign?
at the Ethics Commission. We're going to follow the ethics guidelines and rules 100%. Both the letter and the spirit.
Ditto.
I wanted,
And we have to get the mayor moving.
yeah,
We
one
have to go
quick
to the
question.
appointment.
Campaign Finance Committee, you promised that when you decided who's going to be on this committee to make it public.
Make the campaign
Finance Committee.
Is that required by the Ethics Commission?
No,
I mean, we'll
it's,
disclose all of our donors, and I mean, we're going to follow all of the campaign finance and ethics rules 100%.
I'm just asking about the
I mean,
Campaign
some
Finance
campaigns
Committee.
do committees, and some campaigns do chairs, and we're, the structure exactly, we just got into this
If
yesterday.
you have a Campaign Finance Committee in Form 1, you indicated
Oh, that'll
there
be
would
clear from the disclosures.
No, it's not clear.
It'll be clear from events that we hold, from disclosures.
I'm just
It's
asking,
gonna
would
be
you
very
provide a
transparent.
list of who will be on your Campaign Finance Committee?
Well, I'm going to comply with all of the rules and regulations of all the campaign financing laws. To the extent that they require me to do so, I will do so.
We're going to be transparent.
Right, but I'm asking, campaign finance disclosures only show
We
us,
have a
they
campaign-
only show a part of the picture. I'm looking for the people
we
who are
have-
actually like doing the heavy lifting, raising the money, because they're the ones who are bundling the $500 contributions and getting the money out there. They're the ones who have the primary influence. I will be asking the same thing of other campaigns. I'm asking, would that be something you'd be willing to disclose? Who will be on this committee?
We'll let you know when we put together the thing. I will emphasize that we will comply with everything that's required of us, and if there's more information that people seek, we'll take those questions on at the time.
And we'll be transparent, and we certainly don't have anything to hide.
I'm
Okay.
about to go to SF General.
Okay.
Because it will